morning. He's given me permission to call him Nathan instead of Mr. Nathan. Makes it easier. Thank you so much. I spoke to him in the morning for some time, and I was reading around him. And interestingly, he's someone who's got almost 3 lakh followers and on social media. Amazing. And obviously, that's on the back of the kind of writing, the kind of thought, the kind of anecdotal learning, and a lot of learning based on experience that you actually provide. So, such a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So, I was speaking to him in the morning, and he has certain prefixes in a way to all the cities that he is part of. So he says, I live in beautiful Bangalore. I used to live in happy Hyderabad. And then I asked him, what about Delhi? So he said, delightful Delhi. So, so that way, obviously, it worked very well. Then he's from Chennai. So he says, charming Chennai. So, and now I know the kind of person that I'm going to talk to. Very positive. You're someone who has been in different parts of the country, lived in different parts of the country. And so tell us a little bit about your life before XLRI happened. Your early years. I just got to know you're from Calcutta. I'm from Calcutta as well. So
very nice.
There. So please, over to you.
First of all, it's a pleasure being with all of you. And when I saw the audience out here and I see this setup, I was kind of nervous. I still am. I was actually born in Calcutta. Actually, I was born in some place down in the south and then very quickly moved to Calcutta. And I did my primary from Calcutta, middle from Madras, and high school intermediate was in Nagpur. So, and then I came back to Madras to do a program in mathematics. Now you'll ask me, why is it that we made so many changes? My father moved only 3 jobs in his entire life. And for one of them, he was asked to set up a plant in Nagpur, which is why we went there. Life has been very good. The ability to learn new languages, for example, Bengali is a language that I speak. I can fool a non-Maharashtrian. I can read Marathi, of course, but that's not saying anything because that's Devanagari script. And Chennai, I can't read and write Tamil to save my soul, unfortunately. So I like this new NEP coming in because it just forces people and gets people to be aware of their culture. So I wish I had spent more time in Chennai. And when I came back to Madras, it was because I wanted to do engineering. I wanted to be an engineer. My entire life was, I have to be an engineer. Didn't work because the Maharashtra quota got taken away because my results came late. So I couldn't go into REC Trichy. So I came back to the city of Madras. I call it Madras because then it was Madras, it's not Chennai. So I went knocking on a number of doors saying I need admission. Finally, I went to a college, Vivekananda College. And this college said, we have openings, but very few. So the option was, for me, I want to do economics. So I said, if I can't get engineering, I can do at least economics. And this gentleman on the other side said, economics all over, you have 2 choices. You have Sanskrit, BA Sanskrit, or you can do mathematics. Now that's a Hobson's choice because Sanskrit, I really felt, I wouldn't know what to do after doing Sanskrit, BA Sanskrit. So I said, that's off. And mathematics is a subject that I don't like. However, at the end of 3 years, I was the best outgoing student of Vivekananda College. I learned to like mathematics. And the whole notion was, if you don't get what you like what you get. And you make a meal of it. So that was why XLRI. I was very good in maths. I learned that I was very good in maths. And I thought I could breeze this CAT exam. So I went and sat in the CAT exam. In 20 minutes, I knew that I had not prepared. So I just walked out. I felt miserable about it. And the XAT exams were about 15 days later. Then I went out, bought some books. I really studied very hard. And then it was a very humbling experience because I wanted to go only to IIM Ahmedabad. It did not happen. Then I went to Excel. And even the choice of whether doing a business management program or an industrial relations program was something that weighed very heavily. What would a student of mathematics do out there? My uncle was a trade union leader, and he was a militant trade union leader who used to have a bicycle chain for his belt. And I thought that that's perhaps not the way to engage with management. And I thought I need to know a little bit more about the subject. Anyway, it was more from the heart. It was nothing to do with the mind. I took this program and came into Excel. And Excel was a delightful experience. Delightful. I mean, I've never learned so much in 2 years as I did when I spent time in Jamshedpur.
That's nice. I think since you talked about CAT, recently the CAT exams 2023 happened, and you could make out so much discussion, so much chatter happening around slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. Incidentally, you got almost 3 lakh people taking the CAT this year. Then that happened for you in about 15 days. Is that when you kind of, for the lack of a better terminology, pulled up your socks and...
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. It was a very humbling experience. The thing is not to ever give up. Not to ever give up, because the moment you would have everything against you. But then when you have reality that strikes you between the eyes, then you got to step back and say, now what do I do about it? And then you get onto your action frame and start working.
Let me tell you, you are an interviewer's and a moderator's delight, because all I have to do is just give some trigger and so that makes our task easier. So I think once you had a wonderful experience in XLRI, then you moved on to a multinational, a British multinational, ICI.
That's right.
Tell us about that experience. I believe you made some, seemingly tough decisions during that time as well.
Yeah. So the choice of for people who are taking up jobs, we all have choices. I did very well in Excel. I was a topper in Excel. And I had 3 job offers, one from ITC, one from Hindustan Levers, and the third one was ICI. And my father was a chain smoker. So ITC was out because he would embarrass me by asking me for a carton of cigarettes. Right. So I said, I don't want to be embarrassed. I moved out. Second one was Levers. They gave me a job in sales and marketing. And I was a human resources professional. And they were very, very clear that they wanted me only in sales and marketing. And I said, I want to stick to my core. I don't want to be distracted. But then it was a toss-up between Levers or ICI. The people who came for the ICI interview, and particularly there was a gentleman who was almost like the chaperone around the place. I mean, he carried tea for us. He made us very comfortable. He was around the place all the time, and he almost was one of the busybodies around the place. And the interview lasted a couple of days. And we were called to Calcutta, meeting the board, etc., etc. And then finally, we were asked to meet the big boss of human resources, the general manager of human resources. So when I walk into the room, who do I meet? That busybody person who was serving us tea. And I felt really touched. I felt very touched because here was an organization which cast aside all their labels, and they were really and genuinely caring about people. The seeds of what it takes to be a good, forget human resources professional, a good professional, I learned in ICI.
Is that, sometimes we presume things or we assume things about generations that we are now part of or whatever. Is that missing now? This particular characteristic?
I don't think so. I think sometimes we are very harsh in judging I think the best thing that we can do as professionals, as leaders, is to suspend judgment. I think all of us have a unique ways. We have our own persona. And just because it does not align to the kind of persona that I possess, does not mean that that person is somewhat different and therefore must be out. I think being all inclusive, being embracing, making sure that we learn in every one of those interactions by having these people. About 95% of people in Deloitte are millennials. And the average age must be about some 27 years or so. I end up learning almost every day from the people that I meet. It's an amazing culture.
Thank you for that. I think you've given so much to your profession, human capital, human resources. Have you seen that transition? Have you seen a lot of transformation in how you deal with people, or somebody deals with people at large organizations such as yourselves?
The transitions that I have seen over a period of time fall into two buckets. One is holding the core of what it means to really recruit the best and develop the best at one end. And suppose you have moved into an organization where you don't have the best, but you still have to get the best out of them. That's another. So working with the clay that you have and shape that into the kind of pot that you wish is in the hands of the potter. You don't blame the clay. I think that's what I've learned.
Very interesting. Huh? You've also written a book. It's a Harper Business publication called Heart of Work.
That's right.
And there are a lot of very, very meaningful, very insightful anecdotes that, through your experience, your life, even through your family that you've gained. Tell us a little bit more about some of those experiences from the book. To the audience, they're largely, young people who are currently pursuing their MBA programs. Any particular anecdotes that you would like to mention?
So, first of all, to all members in the audience, I'd say, first thing you got to do is you go buy that book. It's called The Heart of Work. I know I'm going to be selling this book to you, but all proceeds that I receive from HarperCollins is going to charity. So that's your small contribution. The book has about 74 short stories. So you can flip open any page. Each of those stories is no more than a 4-minute read. No gyan, no pontification, no prescriptions. Just a very easy read. You get tired of what you do any place. You flip open and then you read something. I'm very fond of stories. I'm very, very fond of stories. And I think I learned that from my grandmother. They always say grandmother's tales. They never say grandfather's tales, but I hope one day they say grandfather's tales. So one of the stories which got me to really write this book was, I was a management trainee in ICI, and I was posted to a place in Bihar called Gomia. It's no longer Gomia because I have a reputation. If I spend 8 years in any one state, the state splits. So it happened once when I went to Bihar, Gomia, state split. Then I went to Hyderabad, the state again split after 8 years. But back to Gomia, where it was an explosive.
You're in Karnataka now.
I am in Karnataka now. And my friends have told me, please make sure that after 8 years, you just move away. You don't complete your 8 years. I said, I hope to do that someday. So when I went to Gomia, I was given a very nice letter which says somebody will receive you, there will be a car, the whole 9 yard, and people were following up. Remember, in those days, we didn't have a telephone access, easy access, nothing. It was all through snail mails. So I received this and I said, wow, this is nice. So I get onto his train, and this is not one of those electric trains, it's one of those steam engines, where even if you look out, the soot will come and the fly ash will hit you in the face. And as I was nearing this place at 7 in the morning, and I was carrying a hold-on. Now in those days, you don't have these trolleys. These are nice bag-like things. You just roll over all these. And so I was pretty heavy for me. So I was carrying that. And I got off the station. And to my dismay, there was not a soul there to receive me. So I was in a completely new land. And my father had told me that this place, Gomia, is not even on the map of India. So where are you going to such a place? But I dismissed that. I said, it's a good company. I like this. And let me go. I went in, and you then got to get up the staircase, then come down on the other side of the platform. And there I saw a beautiful, absolutely burnished azure blue Peugeot. And that car was there. And there was this driver. He didn't have a hat on, dressed in khaki. And he was wearing shorts. I didn't blame him for that. And as soon as I got down, he looked at me and he spoke to me in chaste Hindi. And he asked me as to where I was to go. So I said, I have to go to the main guest house. He said, hum aapko chhod denge. And then I looked at this hold on, as if to say, he's got to pick this up and put this inside, which is what he did. He opened the dicky, he put this, and he was a guy who was even shorter than I am. And he did that. And he sat in the front, I sat behind, and he asked me a number of questions. And I was getting irritated with the driver who spoke too much. He was asking me a lot of questions, all in Hindi. And I tried to respond as much as I could. I was getting really irritated. And you see, when you're coming in from one of these big institutions, portals of knowledge, and if you've done well and you're being selected, one of the very rare things, then you carry all this as epaulets on your shoulder, and you think you're a very big guy. And when I come to the guest house, and as soon as they saw the car, there were 4 people who ran and they saluted. And I said, oh, things are getting better now. I love this. And they came and they saluted and they picked this bag and took it. Then I looked at the driver said, thank you, sir. And I thanked him, and then I rushed. I don't even remember if I thanked him. But anyways, I rushed. Next day, I was supposed to meet the chief executive of the place. There's a gentleman called Dr. Subir Verma, and he was a terror. I mean, he knew his subject. Everybody knew that he was the cleverest person on earth, and everybody revered him. And I was to meet him at 7:30 in the morning. So 7:15, I was waiting, and I was suitably dressed to make an impression on the first big leader I was going to meet in the company. And then knock 7:30, one of those very large rooms, and fully complete wood, mahogany all over the place. And so it's imposing. And for somebody who's a management trainee, first job, open the door, you find one person, he's wearing one of those factory overalls facing the wall. And then I said, may I come in? He said, yes, you may. And all this in this very heavily accented British accent English. And then when I went in, he turned. And as soon as I saw him, I blurted out, "Aap yahan pe kya kar rahe ho?" Because he was the driver. He was the driver. I was stunned. I couldn't speak. The person that who spoke to me all along took my baggage, put it in the car, and never gave an inkling that he was Dr. Verma. It sat very deeply because in all of that, he was driving a lesson in humility in me. And I never forgot that. That's a company. I would have stayed with that company forever.
That's a good learning. And I'm sure as soon as you saw him in the mahogany, room, all those flashes of you giving the hold all and telling him.
I felt so small. I almost came down crashed.
So you also mentioned something, let's say the chip on the shoulder.
Yes.
Of sorts. And how does any generation deal with something like that? Right? There are expectations. You do notice that a lot of students within the first year of joining a role or a job actually transition to another role. Now, is there a link there? Is there a learning there from you?
Learning both sides of the wall. I think, for one, take yourself a lot less seriously. Take your job seriously. That's the first thing that I learned. The other one is organizations that come to recruit people. As much as they sell their story and people buy the stories, and sometimes what comes as a big film in your eye because you're not able to see very clearly is this whole thing around compensation. And when compensation kind of clouds your eyes, you make choices that perhaps you perhaps say, maybe this is not what I signed up for. So we have to be very clear. Organizations have to be very clear as to what are you seeking from these portals of very bright minds. What are you really expecting from them and what are you giving to them? Because if you miss that spot, then you have lost that person in the first 3 months. And people will then exercise their choice. It's not about organization saying, okay, it doesn't work for us. It is an individual saying, well, you don't really work for me. I need to find some place. So it's got to work both ways.
Yeah, it cuts both ways, definitely. And that kind of conditioning is obviously important. Great. So thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure listening to you. I can do that all day long, and I'm sure the audience can too as well. So really appreciate you coming over to IMT Ghaziabad, and yes, absolutely. I think you should be.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure, and wonderful questions, wonderful answers. Look forward to seeing more of you at the campus.
Thank you. Thank you very much.